Oh, there's another reading of Mehera-Meher. Um, the chapter is called "Save the Gentleman." We're in the middle of it. It's page 53.
About her stay in the hospital, Mehera said, I don't remember what food was brought or much about it, as I was given sedation tablets. They only discovered that my sense of smell had been damaged when I complained that the hospital food was insipid, without flavor. Besides, I had no sensation in the front teeth, and all the muscles near my eyes were affected. I couldn't open my eyes. I had to squint for quite some days till we went to Yupon Dunes. I was afraid my front teeth were going to come out. The impact was so great that all my front teeth were numb. I couldn't feel the teeth. It is good that they didn't get loose, but for months there was no life in them. Okay, we can go up a little. Mahara told Baba, this scar here on the forehead, I don't mind. But what about my front teeth? Baba said, don't worry, it'll be okay. So I used to put up with that funny feeling in my mouth. I didn't mind the scar as long as I had my own teeth. That was more important. Margaret and Kitty helped look after Mehera. Baba was very upset about Mehera, said Margaret. He said to Sarosh, if anything happens to Mehera, go straight back to India. Don't go with this the rest of the trip. I had to massage Mehera a little bit too, just to revive her. She didn't like it. With Baba, it was different. I had to massage him and make him move his leg without using his spine or back at all, which wasn't to be moved. Margaret continued, it would have worried Mehera terribly to know the full extent of Baba's injuries, and she was too ill to worry. So he never spoke to her then about Baba's injuries. Later on, Mehera asked about Baba. It was good she didn't see him at the time of the accident, as his arms was broken and his face was in a state. Kitty concurred. Baba hid his suffering from Mehera, as she would have suffered more had she been fully conscious and seen him lying there suffering. Mehera was not able to see for about 10 days. We kept telling her that Baba was going to be all right, that he was getting better. Mehera never insisted on seeing Baba. With Baba, one never insisted on anything. The extent to which Baba shielded Mehera was not apparent even to the other women Mandalay until years later.
Dolly.
Mandalay. Mandalay. For many years, the women never discussed the accident, as they knew it would upset Mehera. One day, Mani happened to be describing to Mehera what a shock it was for her to see Mehera and Baba lying on the ground in pools of blood. But that's not what happened, Mehera asserted, and she related this experience. I was not sleeping at the time of the accident, like Mani. I was not nodding off. I always like to look at the scenery. But that time, what happened, I don't know. I did not see the accident happen. The only thing I knew was that I saw a vision. We were in the car. Baba was in the front seat, and our car bumped into another car. There was a big, very forceful jolt. I saw Bob in the front seat turn quickly around and ask me, are you hurt, Mehera? Are you hurt? I put my hand on my forehead to hide the injury and said, no, Baba, not much, because I did not want Baba to worry. Elizabeth too had a vision at the moment of her impact. In hers, she described feeling Baba actually pulling her back into the body so that she would not die then. That's a sidebar. Anyways, back to the text. Twice Baba asked me if I was hurt. I kept saying that I hadn't been hurt much so that he would not worry. So I saw Baba sitting in the front seat and that I am hurt. When I regained consciousness, I had no idea that Baba was hurt, but I remembered the vision. I was unconscious and did not know anything about how the accident happened. It was by it was Baba's grace that I was unconscious and did not see him lying in blood. How it happened, I did not see. That was Baba's grace. Mani too then realized that Baba, in his compassion, had veiled Mehera from further suffering. Meheru, likewise, was amazed by Mehera's account. Meheru had witnessed the terrible pain Mehera had been immediately after the accident, yet Mehera had no memory of it now. But But even so, when she became aware of it, Mehera felt deeply Baba's suffering. Later, she elaborated, Baba went through this suffering, inconvenience, and discomfort. Many people have accidents and go through them, but this is different. Baba was taking on the suffering for others, plus to bear the pain while in silence. One would like to moan and groan to say, my leg hurts, I feel uncomfortable, to let others know, but Baba's lips were always tight, so that not a sound should escape. Baba did not let a word escape from his lips. Not one sound, not one word did he speak. What control, even in such pain! Yet Baba observed his silence and didn't break it. If Maya came in that way, his work always came first, even more than his health. So much love Baba had. So what must he have done for each one of us? That is why we are here as his lovers. That is why we feel love for Baba, because he has loved each one very dearly. Even those who do not follow him, to them also Baba has given a push. But more, especially to us who have so much connection, Baba has said even our near and dear ones will benefit from our connection. So great is Baba's grace. It was very sad, Mehera concluded. Baba couldn't talk, now he couldn't walk. He suffered. Baba was the ancient one, God, who came on this earth, walked on this earth, and blessed it, and yet he willed his leg to be hurt in the car accident. We were so eager to go to California. Several times Baba told Elizabeth to go faster, faster, until she was going 90 miles per hour. Baba knew we must be at that spot at the exact time. Even that sort of sacrifice he made. The body suffers, it is physical, human. Avatars don't use their powers not to suffer. They feel every bit of pain. Baba said Jesus felt every pain a normal body would feel on the cross. Baba always referred to Jesus as being brave, of having the courage to withstand a difficult advent, the hard times he was born in. Meher Baba's advent was proving no less. Your turn.
I can read next.
Oh, thank you. Uh,
It's a picture of
so
the Prague Clinic and Hospital. May 29, 1952. Do you want me to read these names, Eugenie?
yeah, even though there's mistakes. Oh, yeah, maybe you could turn off
Original sound.
your yeah, your original sound.
You know what? Actually, I think someone's here to pick. Can another reader and then I can go after?
Certainly. Deb, you want to read now or you want me to?
Yes, I can read. Um, but I'm so mystified by this news article, or not really an article, but there were that many people that the doctor also took care of.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
All right.
Oh, I mean, unless there's some for previous, well, it seems to be a daily newspaper, the news record Thursday,
Yeah.
29th, but maybe not. Maybe it was a weekly.
Well, maybe if there's another edition, he'll explain.
Yeah.
Okay. Prague, Oklahoma News Record, Thursday, May 29th, 1952. Prague Clinic and Hospital. Admitted Lloyd Good, Prague. Mrs. Johnny Gregory, Prague. Mrs. Vernon Strickland, Prague. H.A. Arthur Meeker. Meeker's the town he comes from, I guess. Mrs. H.D. Hinson, Prague. Mrs. Madge Norwood, Prague. Mrs. Carrie Sedlace, Prague. Mrs. Earl Bowen Meeker. Mrs. H.D. Roberts, Prague. Mrs. J.J. Globzuba, Prague. Mrs. Elizabeth Patterson, South Carolina. Well, it says South Sea. Merwan Irant, instead of an I on the end, they've got a T. Bombay, India. Mehera Irant, Bombay, India. Okay. Next chapter, chapter 112. We've got pictures here. Julia and Dr. Ned Burleson, courtesy Margaret Burleson.
What a pretty couple.
Yeah. So before I start reading the first page of chapter 112, so there's a sidebar. The Ellis Court Motel has been converted into apartments. The city cafe is no longer standing. Well, Baba, Mera, Meru, and Elizabeth recuperated in the hospital. Delia and the others stayed with Monty at the Ellis Court Motel on Route 62, run by Roy Ellis. They ate at the city cafe. I remember at the time Monty being very upset, wondering why she had escaped unscathed, Delia said. Every day we went to the hospital to see Baba and to inquire about Mera. I never thought that Mera would die, but this was the first time that Mera had ever suffered from such a grievous injury. Baba had always kept her from physical suffering. She was very healthy. She never had anything go wrong with her, and this was suffering for the first time being put on her. Mera was a marvelous patient, Delia continued. The extent of Baba's injuries was kept from her for quite some time, until she had recovered a bit. After the swelling went down, she used to move about. We helped her to the bathroom. At the hospital, Delia was given the job of answering a few letters. Sometimes she was asked to read the letters to Baba, and he dictated points for their reply, which she noted down. But when Baba asked Delia to read what she had written, her handwriting was so poor, at times even she could not make out what she had written. Dr. Burleson seldom discussed his patients at home, which was adjacent to the hospital, but his wife Julia had Baba's contact also. That morning I heard sirens, Julia related. I went on the back porch to see what had happened. Finally, I went over to see what was going on. I was curious, but I had 4 children to raise. Ned was working on Meru, just picking glass out for 1.5 hours. Baba was lying on the delivery table. Mara was in the surgery. There was so much mud was in the hall. Other curiosity seekers were coming around. I remember asking someone in the delivery room with Baba, "Is this your father?" because he wasn't talking. Maybe he was too ill, I thought, or too badly hurt to talk. I can't recall their answer. Money used to come over to her house. She had never seen an automatic clothes washer. She was eager to see it and stayed just long enough to see it work, but she was always anxious to get back to the hospital. I would just stick my head in there and wave to Baba, not go and talk to him. I never sat down and visited. I never visited Mehera much either. She was too ill. I got the impression that she was special, but I was never told much. I may have heard something. Money perhaps said something. When I came to Mehera's room, she was very sweet. Mehera's eyes were swollen shut after the accident. She had to lift her head and look out from the bottom of slits. She couldn't open her eyes. She couldn't work her eyelids. Her eyes remained closed the entire time in Prague. Baba spent 12 days at the Prague clinic. Dr. Goher and the Mondali were impressed by the concerned care of Dr. Burleson, 48, and his wife Julia, 47. Amidst the chaos of treating so many patients, Mani recalled, Dr. Burleson was absolutely calm when we arrived. Dr. Burleson in his clinic, him being allowed to administer to Baba and Mehera, it was as if in this avataric drama, they were there in Prague only for Baba, as if Burleson had built this tiny clinic only for Baba. Burleson himself said, after Baba began to feel better, about the 4th day, I was surprised at his obviously genuine interest in me and my family, and he rather embarrassed me at times because of his compliments. I usually expect persons who come in for my services who have been in car wrecks to be very critical and everything but complimentary. And finally, after receiving the services, do all they can to avoid paying for them, or at least minimize the value and efficiencies of my services in order to get them as cheaply as possible. That is the general rule with most Americans. Then, if I do not get paid before they leave, we never hear from them again. Hmm. Therefore, I was not prepared for all the compliments and courtesy and the good manners of everyone in the party, but especially Baba. He made me feel like I was the greatest doctor on earth. Sarosh Irani also embarrassed me with his compliments. My wife told me if I was around them much longer, I would get a big head. Well, let's see. I think his head did look kind of large. Yeah. The Burleson's daughter, Margaret, later narrated how her parents happened to be living in Prague. Ned Burleson was born in Wardham, Texas, and grew up there. His father was an attorney, but after his father was involved in a gunfight, Burleson's mother left with her 5 children. The father survived and rejoined his family, but he never practiced law again. The family moved to Norman, Oklahoma when Burleson was 12 or 13. They had just enough money to buy lumber for a floor and canvas to make a tent. His father got a job as the janitor of Norman High School and worked there until he died. The family laughed when Ned told them he was going to become a doctor since they had no money for higher education. Ned then put himself through medical school, doing all sorts of odd jobs. Once he had to kill the rats that were infesting the human anatomy lab of the University of Oklahoma. Another time, he spent his summer sanding the floors of the university's classrooms. For a while, he ran a bookstore in Oklahoma City to help pay his tuition. In 1927, he married Julia, a native of Lindsay, Oklahoma. After medical school, the couple moved to Berger, Texas, where they worked during the Depression. This was during the Dust Bowl days. I think they were there about 6 months. Mother couldn't stand the wind and dirt, no flowers or grass. She and Daddy came back to Oklahoma City and began to look for a nice small town to begin their lives in medical practice. And who was that speaking?
I think
Margaret.
that was the daughter.
Yeah, whose name was Margaret, but not
Not our
not the other.
Margaret.
Yeah. Do you want to read for a while?
Oh, sure. But we'll pass it on to Eve, rather Mikal. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to read today because of Mara's Day tomorrow and Baba's accident. And it's wonderful that, I mean, it's just amazing that this Baba coincidence that we're reading about the accident when it's going to be on the Memorial Day on this Saturday. So Julia Burleson continues the story. At one of the medical supply shops, we were told there was an opening in Prague. The local doctor had died that summer. There were also openings in western Oklahoma. One morning we drove to Prague. Looked it over. Ned called on the doctors there. We also visited 2 towns in western Oklahoma. Prague, though small, was relatively clean. Western Oklahoma we had found to be dirty. So we moved to Prague. There was a small clinic there with the doctor's family living at the back. When he died, the widow wanted Ned to run the hospital, but he built his own. Margaret Burleson concluded Daddy was the most generous person I had ever known. While his family was always well cared for, most of his earnings were put back into the hospital to support it. He served on the school board for 35 years. When the old high school was condemned, he bought the entire section of land just west of the city park and gave the land to the school. What does it mean that old high school was condemned? What does that mean?
It usually means that the building has been neglected and deteriorated so much that it'd be dangerous to occupy it.
Okay, I didn't read also the asterisk. It says the town's founder were Czechs and named it after Czechoslovakian capital, Prague. So, where are we? Yeah. So when the old high school was condemned, he bought the entire section of land just west of the city park and gave the land to the school. Some were sold to pay for a new school. He was also responsible for the swimming pool in Prague. He hired an architect to draw the plans and then told the city to ask for a bond election. Where are we? I lost my place. Oh,
Here we go.
Oh, okay. So Prague had a pool the next summer. Daddy gave so many people free medical care. He took all kinds of produce as payment. I remember once a very poor family who had lost everything in the fire. Daddy wanted to let them live in our basement, which was a large and had a separate kitchen. Mother wouldn't hear of it. He took down my brother's twin beds, gathered all of our extra clothing, our outgrown bikes, and gave them to this family. These are just a few of my precious memories of Daddy. He was a very special man. About Mary Baba's arrival in their midst, Margaret related. When the accident happened, Daddy came home and told us that a bunch of Indians had been hurt in a car wreck. They probably thought American Indians. I was disappointed to learn that they weren't American Indians. I loved Indians and wanted to be one. But I was also a bit fascinated to learn they were from India. For a 10-year-old girl in Prague, Oklahoma, India was another world. And real Indians were quite mysterious. I remember Sarosh and some of the others, but mostly I remember Mani. She was beautiful. I thought she was about the nicest lady I'd ever met. I had a brown cocker spaniel named Rusty, and she later wrote me that she had a little black cocker spaniel. It seemed to me that Mani was at our house quite a lot. I wanted her there all the time. No one knew oops, No one knew what to think about Baba. With so many people around, I knew he was very special. One day, my 8-year-old sister Beth and I were taken to Baba's room. He had his alphabet board. I remember standing just to his right. Someone told us what he was saying. I've never remembered what he said, but I will never forget how he looked at me. Even now, I remember drowning in his huge eyes and feeling like something extraordinary was happening. I felt it was very special that Bess and I were allowed to see him. I wanted to see him again, but didn't know how to ask. I was so curious. Mainly, I wanted to ask him why he wouldn't talk to me, why he used the strange board if he didn't have to. My parents never talked about Baba very much after everyone left. As a child, I wanted to know about him. After this event in our lives, my father went to church every Sunday and supported it financially faithfully. He began to read every night history, geology, the life of Christ, medicine. So much information. It was almost a ritual. I think he had a real spiritual awakening. I am sure he never connected any of this to Baba. I have to believe that Baba had touched him in a way Daddy would never consciously know. One has to be fairly well secure, able to think, explore, and believe independently, to be able to contemplate embracing the idea of Meher Baba being the avatar, God as Christ is God. For a man such as my father, Baba was so foreign, so unfathomable, and I'm sure even threatening, although may not consciously. For Margaret Burson, however, Baba was not threatening at all. Years later, she became a Baba lover.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Our locals who worked at the clinic had close contact with Baba. Chief among them, among whom were Jess Dobbs, the lab technician, and Burson's head nurse, Velma Davis. Though none of them was especially drawn to him, Dr. James C. Amspacher from Oklahoma City came to Prague to set Baba's and Elizabeth's arms. One of the nurses, Charlene Kimmery, explained, the staff only knew that Baba was some sort of Indian religious figure. Kitty helped look after both Elizabeth and Mara, who were staying in the same room. Kitty slept on the floor. Elizabeth had cracked ribs and wasn't getting well, said Kitty. She hadn't been x-rayed properly. When the time came to leave, the plan originally was for Baba, Mara, Elizabeth, and 2 attendants to fly from Oklahoma City to Myrtle Beach. But, according to Elizabeth, because of fog and inclement weather over Tennessee, they decided instead to return to Myrtle Beach by cars and ambulances driving the entire way. And Asterix says, no anesthesia was given to Baba when Spatcher set his arm. Despite the procedure being excruciatingly painful, Baba did not make a sound, not even a grunt. Baba requested Nurse Kimmery to accompany them, but she refused. The night before they left, Elizabeth told Kitty that she still did not feel well enough. You have to scroll. She did not yet feel well enough to travel alone. She asked her to try again to persuade Nurse Kimmery to come. She can leave as soon as we get to Myrtle Beach, Elizabeth said. Kitty described what happened next. Just at that moment, I heard someone go by in the hall. I drew the curtains to see who it was. It was the nurse. I asked her if she would do it, and she said she would. I came back into the room. Mara had wanted water and, in search for the glass, had slipped and cut her eye, the same one that was injured. She had hit her eye on one of the sharp corners of the bed table. She didn't actually fall from the bed, as I got back in time to catch her.
Could you slow down just a tad, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you imagine? Baba was very, very upset. He was strictly that Baba, it was strictly that Baba had asked me not to leave Mera for a moment. I felt so bad because I thought if I had done this, Baba would never trust me again to be with Mera. I was selfish. It was a selfish thought. Instead of thinking that I might have happened, instead of thinking what might have happened to Mera, fortunately, the doctor was called and no damage was done. The same day, 3rd June 1952, was the Burlesons' 25th wedding anniversary. Their children planned a surprise party after dinner with all of their parents' friends. Someone had given Baba a beautiful bouquet that day, Mrs. Burleson recalled. He had it sent over to our house. I set it on the desk in the dining room. They brought it over because they were leaving the next day. Sarosh presented us with an expensive silver cigarette case from Baba. On the afternoon of the 4th, I came by to say goodbye. As they were being loaded into 2 ambulances, it was very hot that day they left. A man from Thompson's ambulances in Oklahoma City drove, along with a nurse in Elizabeth's ambulance. I can't read that, I can't read this space, so someone take over now.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And Mara and Baba.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm back here.
Eva. Awesome. Eva, go ahead. From uh, Julia Burleson referred to.
And there's also an asterisk there.
Okay.
Oh,
Julia Burleson referred to Mehera always as the lady. She asked to be kept informed about her condition when Mani returned to India. And their sidebar, perhaps the coincidental large gathering of Prague townsfolks at the Burlesons' home just behind the clinic was Baba's parting gift to them of his close proximity. Mani asked what reactions Mehera was likely to suffer from the concussion. At the very least, she will get severe headaches, she was told. This was worrisome. Mehera was not accustomed to being ill, and whenever Mehera was sick, she never bore it well. Mani, on the other hand, since her childhood, always seemed to have some sort of illness or cold, so she was used to it. The miracle was that after the accident, when Mehera recovered, she never suffered from headaches. Dr. Burleson's wife wrote later to ask whether Mehera was having headaches from her injuries. Mani wrote back, "It isn't Mehera who gets the headaches, but me." It was really Baba protecting her, Mani concluded. Mehera herself attributed her remarkable recovery from the 1952 accident to the protective power of Siraji's prayer given in Nasik in 1930.
and the sidebar.
Oh, Julia Burleson and Mani continued to correspond throughout the year, exchanging Christmas cards and news once a year, every December. And a picture of Yukon Dunes, Myrtle Beach. It's a beautiful home.
Mm.
It's now in the hands of the Sufis,
Mm.
serving as a Baba center there.
And another view.
It's also built up on either side.
What do you mean on
Oh,
the side?
Well, it's on the ocean. You can
Oh,
walk
yeah,
out the
yeah.
back onto the beach, and on either side of the Yukon Dunes is another home.
Uh-huh. So,
Mm.
do you mean in the location that we see vegetation in this picture?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I don't think, I think we would see other homes and also behind it. Yeah, you'd see more.
Yeah. Well, that's progress for you.
Yeah.
Can't stop it.
Yukon Dunes. On
And
Wednesday,
that's chapter 113.
oh, okay, so chapter 113. On Wednesday, 4 June 1952, Mayor Baba left Prague in an ambulance for Myrtle Beach. Mehera, Goher, and Mayor G rode with him. Elizabeth, Kitty, Nailu, and the nurse traveled in a second ambulance. Sarosh followed in his car with Margaret, Rano, and Don had flown back to make advance arrangements. Adi Sr., Gustaji, Delia, Mani, and Meru, whose arm was in a cast, also left earlier in the station wagon that the Mandali had driven from California. And sidebar, Adi Sr. noted in a letter that the hospital bill came to 10,000 rupees, $500 in 1952,
Oh
which
my
Elizabeth,
goodness.
yeah, right.
I mean, it'd be $50,000 or even $500,000
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
sure. Which Elizabeth's insurance company paid. When they were leaving the hospital, Mara wanted to walk to the ambulance, but all said for her to lie down on a stretcher. It was so funny, she recalled. I walked from my room to the stretcher and lay down on with Baba next to me in the ambulance. The stretchers were side by side on the floor of the ambulance. Goher sat at our feet. There were two young male drivers. While leaving, Mara realized for the first time how badly Baba had been injured. Naturally, she was upset, Goher said, trying to keep up her spirits while they were traveling. Baba told Mara to look out the window. Is there a town coming? He would ask. Tell me what you see. From her stretcher, Mara lifted her head to gaze out, but she could still not open her eyes much. A town is coming, she reported. It looks nice. Many times along the way, Mara continued, Baba reached over and pressed my hand lovingly to reassure me that everything was going to be all right. Baba took my hand and very sweetly and sympathetically comforted me. Don't worry at all, Baba told her. Everything will be all right. Keep happy. You'll quickly recover. I'll get all right and we will forget all about this. It was my work and you've taken part in it. I'm very happy and proud that you shared in my suffering. I didn't feel so bad then about my injuries. I didn't know then that it would be a permanent scar on my forehead. I thought that the wound would heal. I was being given erythromycin ointment to apply to prevent infection and injections to deaden pain. It made me feel drowsy and dull most of the time, but I appreciated Baba holding my hand so sweetly and giving me courage. They drove throughout the first night. Margaret and Sarosh, as mentioned, were alone in a car behind Baba's ambulance. I had to smack Sarosh's face to keep him awake as we followed Baba's car, Margaret recalled. We stopped for coffee. At dawn, after the first night, to our horror, we saw Baba's car with the wheel off. They had had a flat tire, but they had no apparatus to change it. We had a jack in our car. If we hadn't come up, that's why we were told to follow. Baba told Goher to be on the lookout for a restaurant or place they could eat. When they stopped, Goher brought the food to the ambulance and they ate inside it. It was too hot to drive during the day, so they decided to drive only at night. Most likely, they stopped midday on the 5th and again early in the morning of the 6th at a motel in Chattanooga where they rested for the day. Mehera could walk, so she got out of the ambulance herself. Baba had to be carried inside on the stretcher and gently lifted on the bed. Before going inside, Baba told them to be comfortable and sleep well. Goher and Mehera shared a room, and Baba rested in his room with Nilu and Sarosh on watch. Mehera was coming around by then, and her mood was sweet, Margaret recalled. Meanwhile, those in the other station wagon with the luggage were also driving nonstop in the summer heat. Adi, like Sarosh, had to do all the driving himself. The journey was very trying and the sun was blazing hot. Adi later wrote to Vishnu about the trip. And the second day it rained heavily. We put up in a motel at night and started after an early breakfast, Meru remembered. The heat was terrific and very draining. It is so hot, I feel like fainting, Delia remarked at one point. Gustaji, who was on silence and spoke through hand gestured, asked what she was saying. When Mani told him, Gustaji looked at Delia and wondered, how could she be fainting with such lovely pink cheeks? Delia usually wore a lot of makeup, and she asked what Gustaji was saying. When Mani told her that Gustaji was remarking on the pink bloom in her cheeks, Delia took out her handkerchief, moistened it with her tongue, and rubbed her cheeks. Holding the red-stained handkerchief before an astonished Gustaji, she declared, it's rouge. Adi became annoyed at Delia when she kept dozing off and then suddenly waking up when another car whizzed by. What was that, she would ask. Once a truck of fishes passed. What was that, Delia asked again. Corpses, Mani replied sardonically. When Delia persisted in this behavior, Mani told her that Adi had a nervous condition. If Delia continued to startle him, he might suddenly veer off the road. Mani's ploy worked. Delia woke up and started to say what was, and then remembered and did not continue. They stopped for lunch at a drugstore and sat at the counter, Meru next to Mani. After looking over the menu, they ordered hot dogs. The waitress drawled to Mani, do you want everything all the way up on your dog, darling? Mani did not understand and thought she was being asked to pay for everyone at the counter. The waitress treated her as if she were deaf and repeated louder, do you want that with everything all the way up? Meru finally explained. She says, do you want your hot dog with onions, mustard, chili, everything on it? Oh, yes, said Mani, who liked her food well seasoned. As far up as you can go. Adi found the tea in America insipid. When they were on the road, his procedure for procuring a good cup of tea was to order a kettle of boiling hot water and soak 6 tea bags in it. Only then would it be strong enough and hot enough to drink. Driving almost continuously, Baba's group reached Myrtle Beach on 8 June. Arrangements for Baba and the women had been made in Elizabeth's father's oceanfront mansion called Yupon Dunes, located at 3202 Ocean Boulevard in an exclusive area. The house had 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and a back patio with an enclosed garden, assuring total privacy. The center would not have been suitable for convalescing patients, Mehera explained. It was too secluded, and the doctor, William Chapman, would not be able to come there easily. Here, in this nice big house, all could stay together, not like at the center, where Baba's house and our guest house are separate. I could visit Baba when called. There was a window facing the sea of our 2nd-story bedroom and a lift chair running from the upstairs to the dining room and garage. Elizabeth's father, Mr. Chapin, had built this house for his wife when he retired, but it was as if he had built it for Baba. And sidebar, the house was designed by Philip Johnson, who would later become one of the most noted architects in America. It had been given to Elizabeth, and she and Norina stayed there when they were in Myrtle Beach. Yupon is a shrub of the holly family. Although Adi Sr. and his group had reached Myrtle Beach the previous evening, Adi was not present at Yupon Dunes when Baba arrived. He had been waiting for hours, but left shortly before Baba came in the afternoon. Only Don was present to receive him, and Baba was furious with Adi. Unable to control his temper, Adi retorted loudly, I will get on a plane and return to India this afternoon if you want. You should have been here, Baba berated him. You should have waited. Adi responded, but how can I know the exact time of your arrival? And so it continued. Baba recuperated at Yupon Dunes for 5 weeks, but the cast on his leg caused a great deal of discomfort. Using a long probe, Gohir gently tried to scratch inside it. Fortunately, Baba's room was air-conditioned. This had been specifically arranged by Elizabeth, who had instructed Don and Rano, since they were flying back ahead of the others, to have an air conditioner installed in Baba's room. Big summer, Myrtle Beach was sweltering. Everyone waited for Baba to call them into his room so that they could cool off. When Baba told them to leave, they were reluctant to go. Mehera and Gohir shared a room. Mani and Meru were in another bedroom nearby. I didn't care for the plan of the house, Mehera confessed. And next reader, please.
Sure. Shaw, would you like to read? Are you able to read? Or do you have sleeping roommates? Yes or no? I guess your silence means no. Our room was far from Baba's. No, no Baba and a hot climate. It was worse than Bombay. Meru agreed. The heat wave was worse than India, she said. We couldn't bear that humid heat. That is so ironic, huh? Mera went and sat with Baba, Goher related, but she was not looking after him while he was recuperating at Yupon Dunes. I was with her most of the time and attending to her, doing her dressing. There was no other specific treatment for her, except to do the dressings of the wound on her forehead, and not to let it get infected. Mara wasn't moving about much. She was mostly either in her room or on the porch overlooking the sea. Mara's room was on the same floor as Baba's. Her room was breezy and, fortunately, had a terrace overlooking the sea. It was so hot that time. Elizabeth had had an air conditioner put in Baba's room. The moment we came out, it felt like being in a blast furnace. Still is like that in Myrtle Beach in the summer. Meru, too, stayed with Mara for much of the time. I read to her to keep her spirits up, Meru recalled. I read articles from National Geographic magazines and showed Mara the pictures when Mani and Goher were busy elsewhere. Both my hands were still injured, so I couldn't do much. Mani did a lot of the laundry down in the basement. Baba and Mara dined together in Baba's bedroom. They ate off one table. They ate off of one table. Baba seated on his bed and Mara on a chair near the window, overlooking the ocean. They were alone. Kitty and the others ate downstairs. Meals for Baba and Mara came upstairs on a tray. Tempting dishes were prepared to offset, in some small way, their predicament. For example, Baba permitted them to eat meat at Yupon Dunes. The chicken we had been longing for came at the wrong time, Mara observed, when I couldn't relish it at all. A wing and a leg came. Because of my injuries, it had no smell or taste to me. I didn't care for anything at that time. Once during their stay, Kitty instructed Bessie, the cook, to make fried prawns for lunch. Kitty announced that they were having a special treat that day. When Bessie brought the food to the table and they saw the small black objects, Ronno inquired, "Bessie, what is it you've cooked?" Bessie replied, "It's what Miss Kitty told me to cook, fried prunes." She had not realized that in England and elsewhere, prawns means shrimp. When the full story came out, there was much laughter over it. After arriving at Yupon Dunes, Baba called Ruano again to be with him. One day, Baba summoned Rano to his room privately and asked which cigars were the best. Havana cigars, as far as I know, Rano answered. Baba sent Sarosh to town to buy a box full of them, which he presented to Ruano. She was thrilled. She asked Baba whether she would ever see him again after this visit. Once, Baba replied. But it turned out to be Ruano's last physical contact with her beloved. She died in 1956 in New York, where she had been living with her daughter, before Baba returned to America that year. Now that they were back in Myrtle Beach, the Mondali found time to send an update of Baba's progress to those in India. Letter from Mani to Naja, Khorshid, Sunamasi, Arnabaz, Katie, Nagu, Alu, and all dear ones of Baba's group. Yupon Dunes, 10 June 1952. I received your letter 2 days ago, and will try and write a short and concise picture of the whole thing to you. We are at this moment at Yupon Dunes and arrived here 3 days ago. First, let me tell you that the critical period has passed, and say it is a matter of time only before everyone can be well again. The doctor, Burleson, his wife, other doctors, nurses, and staff were all extremely kind and helpful and friendly. Got very fond of Baba, and before we left, wrote a beautiful letter to Baba. This was lucky, as we were extremely helpless otherwise, because the others who had gone ahead arrived 3 days after the accident. We had the most hellish time for the first week, and it was Sarosh who managed to send off telegrams. We were without money, and Elizabeth, who had to sign the checks, was helpless. It was the complete helplessness and hopelessness of the song of the new life. For a time, I will not be able to write to you the details of it, for to think of it makes me feel so sick. I could not go on writing at all. Baba, Mehera, and Elizabeth were the most injured. Meru had a wound on the forehead, which was stitched up, and small fractures on the wrists. One wrist is in a cast, and the other is in bandages. But otherwise, she is all right. I will write about Baba and Mehera last. Elizabeth was slumped over the wheel with both her hands badly fractured and 7 broken ribs. And there's the 6 sign, meaning that's probably an error. One arm had to be operated upon, for the fracture endangered a nerve, which nearly paralyzed her arm. She is, of course, in bed and very helpless at the moment, but seems cheerful in spite of it. Mehera had a concussion and a bad wound on her forehead, which has been stitched up, a bruised ankle, and her eyelids were so swollen she couldn't open them for days, and even now can only partly open them. But the eyes have in no way been affected, and as the swelling goes slowly down, she will be able to open them wider and wider. She is able to walk about And yesterday, Baba was brought in a wheelchair, and Mehera sat beside him on the veranda. Baba's left leg and left arm were fractured. The leg is in a cast, and the arm is bandaged to his chest. They could not put the arm in a cast, for the fracture is below the shoulder joint and almost, oh, sorry, for the fracture is below the shoulder joint and the angle is awkward. He is still sometimes in pain and spends bad nights. His face, which is almost normal now, was badly bruised. In the hospital on the second day of the accident, his face was so badly swollen and distorted that not a feature of his face was recognizable as Baba's, and he could not eat or drink for 2 days. Very slowly, the swelling has been going down till, as I said, his face is now almost normal. But his face still hurts him from the bruises. X-rays of the face proved there were no fractures of any kind, thank God. In a week or two, the cast on his arm will be taken off. So that's a mistake too. It says sick. But his leg will take longer. Yeah, so up above it said they couldn't put his arm in a cast because the fracture was below the shoulder joint. But his leg will take longer. He can be set on a wheelchair, but his position in bed is most uncomfortable, as he cannot turn over on his side and can only lie on his back or sit up. He is looking thinner than ever and said that this is the personal physical disaster that he had told us about, that up till July 10, weakness dominating every strength, and that he had to suffer this. The world will benefit, said Baba to someone. But my God, how can one accept any good that comes at the cost of such a horrible experience and such personal suffering to Baba and Mehera? The doctors were amazed at Mehera having escaped any internal head injuries, and the specialist said that it was a miracle. And he took down Mehera's name and address for his surgical data. Mehera has been a wonderful patient, and Baba sent word to her that she must not mind the doctors touching her. Elizabeth has been wonderful about the whole thing, and Goher, Rano, and Kitty, and the others here all have been wonderful. The worst is now past, of course. It is nice to be back again, meaning away from the hospital, and our Mondali doctors are with us. Donkin's knowledge of orthopedic surgery helps a lot. The Mondali are looking after Baba, and they all have duties. Margaret is with us and gives massage to the patients. I was hardly hurt, except for a sprained foot and wounded knee, but I suffered from shock. There isn't much that I can think of writing, so I will end. Please forward copies to all you think will be anxious. Mansari, etc. I received Katie's letter a few days ago, and reading it, it sounded like it was being sent from another world. Please understand that it was impossible to write before this. It was not a matter of time. It was just impossible. Baba has many telegrams from all over America, India, and other places. Your telegrams were received and read. I personally thanked Dr. Burleson for that long and understanding reply to Khorshed's telegram. The patients are gradually improving all the time, but bones to heal take time. And to see Baba confined to bed again is very sad. One cannot help him to suffer. And at the moment, he has made himself so helpless, that he cannot help himself. There is nothing for us to do but to pray for the period of strengths to soon come, so that our beloved ones may be well soon. Love to all, Mani. P.S. I have sent a copy of this letter to Jal only. And the following is a letter from Nilu to Padre, 11 June 1952. You must have heard about the accident which Baba, Mera, Elizabeth, and Meru had. It was not Elizabeth's fault, the fault of the fool of the driver of the other car, coming from the opposite direction. That fool was attempting to overtake the lorry, meaning truck, in front of his car at a time when Elizabeth's car was racing fast. Practically her car was near his car. Both cars were in full speed. Elizabeth had no time and space to avoid collision. The bonnet, meaning hood, of her car dashed with a terrific speed and force into the hind part of the other car. The impact was so terrific that Baba, Mera, Mani, and Meru, again, there's a mistake there because there's the sign sick, were thrown out of the car, out of the doors of the car with a terrific force, and they landed in the mud with a violent crash. Elizabeth was pinned down and jammed between the steering wheel and the back of her seat. Her 6 ribs were broken, with an abdominal injury, and her arm and wrist joint terribly hurt and bruised. Baba was lying in the pool of his own blood with a broken arm, leg, and his face, mouth, and nose swollen and bloodied and profusely bleeding from the nose. He was utterly helpless, unable to move, and watching silently and miserably all around. Beyond him lay Mera, with her skull broken, and her face and eyes were swollen and bloated. Near her was lying Meru, with her fingers crushed, and Mani escaped with little injury. This accident took place near Prague on 24th May in the morning. We'll have to stop in the middle of this letter and pick it up next week on page 69.